Welcome back to Sprinkle with Hope podcast and your host, Shane. Today, we're going to be talking about working well with others and helping other people, and just a lot of those things that kind of tie in a lot to what we've been talking about, just Jason and I. If you think back to some of the podcasts that just he and I do, this really ties in well with a lot of the things, including fear that we've talked about. Just all of the topics really tie into this. So we're going to be talking about working well with others. Of course, we're going to start with quotes. My first one is by Napoleon Hill, and he says, "It is literally true that you can succeed best and quickest by helping others to succeed." And I thought that's so true. If we help others succeed, then we can succeed ourselves much quicker than we can alone. And then there's a Chinese saying that goes like this. It says, "If you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. If you want happiness for a lifetime, help somebody." And I just thought that's so good. Like that, all of that is true. If we just want a little happiness, we just take a nap. If we want a little bit more, we go fishing, we get an inheritance. But if we want to change our life and be happy for life, we just keep helping other people and working with people. Think about when you get a birthday cake, and what is the first thing you typically do after you blow out the candles of a birthday cake? You cut it, and then what happens? You usually give a piece of cake to everybody that is at your party. You don't, you'll take a piece for you, but you always give. So to me, I thought that was a good example of, we don't really think, we don't think about helping people when we're cutting a cake, but we instantly share a piece of cake with them, because that's part of our nature, is to help people and work well with them. It's not so much how much we give to the person, it's how much we love to do that act. So let's go back to the cake. It's not as much the act of giving them a piece of cake. It's really that we love giving cake and helping other people. And so that's just some thoughts that I had to start with. Really, it is important that we work well with others, and we'll give you some pointers and tips and more quotes on what things we've learned that will help you do this.
Yeah. So right off the top, I got a quote for you from George Shinn, who was the former owner of the NBA basketball team, the Charlotte Hornets. And he said this, I really liked it. "There is no such thing as a self-made man. You will reach your goals only with the help of others." So not only are we talking about working well with others, we're talking about receiving also help from others. I think oftentimes we do like to help people. At least Shane and I, we love to help people. Sometimes we're not as easy to receive the help from others. So think about it from that standpoint too. We will talk about that as well. And I think it goes both ways, right? Helping other people and then receiving that help from others. So I got a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Assuming the best. And what I'm talking about is like when you're working with other people, I think when you think that things are the best, or you're assuming the best of that situation, you're going to get the best possible outcome, and you're going to see it in a positive light. So assume the best about that person or that situation that you're working with that person in. Some of the other things that I thought about was, when other people are talking, try not to interrupt them, right? If you're going to try to work well with that person and build that relationship, allow them to say what their story is. People want to be understood before they can understand, right? So listen to that person, listen to what they have to say. Sometimes we're so quick to just jump in there with our opinion, and we're not so quick to listen to what their opinion is, because it matters in a conversation or working with other people. Shane and I love positivity. So I have stay positive. When you're positive, other people want to be around that. And think about it, when you're around people that are positive, Are you typically mad, angry? Like, no, right? When you're around
Yes.
positive people, you're typically happy and positive, right? Um, be honest, but be tactful. I think there's, when you're working with people and you're trying to build those relationships and work with building up either a team, or you're working to build that relationship better. I think you can be honest, but be tactful, right? You don't have to bring them down and belittle them. I think you can be, give them the information that they need to make the situation correct. Smile. I love smiling. That's I think, it's such a simple thing, and it seems so rudimentary, but I think it's so easy of a thing to do that sometimes when we're trying to work with people, we forget to just smile. Uh, Look at people when they're talking to you, right? People are looking at you, or they're trying to carry on a conversation. Look into their eyeballs and look at them and look them square in the face. And have you ever talked to somebody and they're not looking at you, and you're like, dude, you're either really creepy or like I'm right here, my eyes are right here, dude. So I think just looking at people in the eyes, and just that's another way to kind of help work well with other people. Sorry. Take responsibility, or take ownership for your mistakes as well as your accomplishments. I think also that would go the opposite direction too, right? Like, give responsibility and give ownership and accomplishments for those that have done those things, right? That'll help you kind of work together. Keep an open mind, be open to their ideas and their way of thinking. You might go into a situation and think, oh, I've, this is the absolute way to do it, right? There's no other way. This is the way to do it. Well, what if you were to open your mind? Maybe you'll actually get some information that will be super helpful, and maybe a different way to think about it, and go, yeah, never thought about it like that. How many times have you been in? I know I've been in those situations before when I thought I knew something, or this was the best way to do it. And just keeping an open mind was helpful. I got two more for you guys. Show sincere appreciation. Thank others for a job well done, and also receive that appreciation, right? Everybody needs a little pat on the back every now and again, including yourself. And that's a positive way to do it, that positive reinforcement. And so appreciate the person. Thanks for opening the door for me. Thank you for helping with me with my groceries. Thank you for doing this, that, and the other thing, right? Be appreciative of them, and then receive that. Have you ever been also in a situation where somebody's opened the door or whatever, and you're just like, I don't know what to say. Thank you would be a good thing to say. But being able to actually receive that appreciation as well, right? Saying, oh, yeah, thank you for acknowledging that I did a great job, or whatever. And then the last one is don't quit. And what I mean by that, it doesn't necessarily mean don't quit your job, but you could also use it in that context as well. But what I mean is don't quit on yourself. Don't ever quit trying to improve yourself. Self-care and self-improvement are a huge part of your life. You should always be thinking about, what can I do better today or tomorrow than I did yesterday? What thing could I work on? What thing is it that I can improve? And also kind of just thinking about, every time Shane and I talk, what is it you'd like to get out of this particular podcast? What is it that would be beneficial to you? And think about that in your context of always looking at self-improvement.
That's awesome. I have a few more that I wanted to add to your list. So one thing that I was thinking of is share credit. So often, if we always take the credit for everything, no matter who we're working with, they're not going to be prone to wanting to work with us in the future. And so share that credit. Give credit where it's due, and don't just always say, oh yeah, that was me. Kind of going along with looking at people in the eyes, which is one thing that I have learned over the years that I can improve drastically. I would have eye contact, but then when I felt a little uncomfortable, I would look away. And I would encourage you, if you get to that point where it feels a little bit uncomfortable, just hold it for just a second so that they see that you're working with them. Along with that is check your body language. If you're talking to somebody and you're slouching all the time, or you're just kind of like looking, whatever you're doing that's not engaged body language, then chances are they're not going to want to really work with you. Remember their names. That's a critical one. When you're talking to somebody or when you meet somebody for the first time, maybe you have to work with them. Work really hard to remember their name. That means a lot to people. And then be on time. Be on time to everything that you can. I always like to be a little bit early. That to me means that I'm on time, because the gift of time is so valuable to each one of us. And if we give our time in a kind way that we're on time, it's way more satisfying for us as the giver, and it's even more valuable than the gift of money. So we probably all don't have the same amount of money, but we all have the same amount of time on our hands. So if we can give our time effectively to people, see the difference that it can make when we have to work with people. Just focusing on that time will really do wonders for the people that we have to work with. I have another quote by Steve Honey, and I couldn't figure out who he was, but I like this quote. We've talked a little bit about music and that we like it. And he says, "You don't get harmony when everybody sings the same note." And I love that, because I related it to music. If you think about music, harmony is about diversity in music. It's not just about the same note for every person. If you're in a choir, you have different sounds that everybody is making. It's the same thing in life. It means that if we have completely different people that can complement each other, just like notes in a harmony, in a choir. As we work together, we can create this beautiful piece of art, if you want to call it that. And I just thought that was really cool that, he tied it into the same note can't always be in a song, because if it's always the same note, then it's just going to sound like monotone. And it's the same thing when we're working with people, that we can complement each other, not singing different notes, but we have that ability to just be ourselves, and to collectively we're going to make fantastic art and team and those type of things.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that way of thinking about it too, just creating that harmony and that unity. So here's another quote for you from Henry Ford, who was the pioneer of the Ford Motor Company. He started that whole thing and the assembly line. And anyway, he just really cool guy. And he said this: coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success. So let me say that again. Coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success. I like that, because it kind of took it. Yeah, you can be together working and whatever, and that's just the beginning of that relationship. But as you stay together, you're starting to work towards the success or the goal that you really want to accomplish, right? And so that's, as you're building that relationship or working in a team or whatever situation you're in, think about it in that way. I also like thinking about setting example for others to follow, right? So if you're trying to work well with others, be the example for people to say, he's the kind of person that I'd like to work with or to be around. Don't be the person that says, well, I don't ever want to associate with that person ever again because they were rude or whatever. Be the person that everybody wants to follow. Be that good leader. Be the, thinking about a leadership and a team, because Shane and I love team sports, right? Like we love soccer, basketball, football, whatever. So what makes a good teammate? somebody who you can work easily with, somebody who, like in a soccer instance, that you know if you pass them the ball, they're going to either be able to manage that really well, be able to score a goal, be able to be a good goalie or whatever position they're playing. So be that good teammate for whatever it is those people you're working around. Be somebody that they can rely on. And also be ready to give great comments and questions. I know that I've been in different team situations, and when you're trying to work well with other people, sometimes you think, oh, my idea is not a very good one, or if I say something, they're going to think that's a really dumb idea. Well, if you don't say it, how are they ever going to know, right? That team is never going to know that was a great idea, or yeah, maybe not the best. Yeah. But if you don't ever say it, yeah. So be ready to give those comments and questions, and be ready to provide for that team if it's in a team environment or one-on-one situation. Shane already talked about it a little bit, but body language is huge, right? And when you're doing certain things, how you carry yourself, that's a great way to work well with others, because people are going to read your body language. And so, if you're slouched, they're going to think, well, he doesn't really care, not interested, doesn't want to be involved. But if you sit up straight and look like you're listening and be attentive and those kinds of things, it's going to go a long ways. And lastly, before I finish with another quote, another way people work well together is being creative and their ability to be innovative. And I've worked with people that have been amazing creative people, and just thinking about things in a different way and putting two heads together is better than one. And typically you can come out with a really, really great solution to a problem, whether that's, a situation where you're a homemaker and you're trying to figure out how to make bread, or whether you're working at a job and you're, working on a team effort and you're trying to put together to solve this issue in your job. Either way, when you come together and you're creative about the things that you want to accomplish, you can accomplish great things. And I've seen that happen when people are creative and allowed to use their creative and innovative abilities. So the last quote that I have is John Wooden, who was an American-based basketball coach, said, "Working with others makes us much more than we could ever become alone." And I think that is absolutely true. Again, he's talking about it in a basketball environment, but you could put it in any context you want. I can only accomplish so much. Thinking about this podcast, right? I could only do so much. With Shane here, we've been able to put our heads together and accomplish great things because we're working together as a team. We are working well to create an amazing podcast and content for you to enjoy.
That's really interesting that you end with that thought, because my last quote goes perfectly with that thought, and it's from Ken Blanchard, and he says this: "None of us is as smart as all of us." And he's not saying that we're not smart. That's not what he's saying. He's saying simply that all of us, if you go back to Ubuntu, what we've talked about, which is we are because we are one because we are, we're smarter together. And that ties perfectly what Jason was just saying, that I don't think that either of us could do the podcast alone and get the same results that we have been able to get together, because together we're smart. We're much smarter than each of us individually. And when you're thinking about working with individuals, don't let that scare you, because the more people you can get on your team and on your side, the smarter you're going to get the team to be. If you're playing sports, if you're all focusing on one thing, the common goal, winning, and you're going to be smarter as a team than you are if you're individually fighting against each other, whatever you're doing. So I just thought that was interesting that your last thought really tied very well into that last quote, that again, none of us is as smart as all of us. And when you're thinking about anything you're working with, some of these tips that we've given you have worked very well for us. I have personally learned to develop better eye contact. That's something that I struggled with for a while, but now I feel like that's now a strength, and I can look at people and get past that uncomfortable point. All of these things that we've talked about, I think if you do some of them, you don't have to do all of them, but just start somewhere and improve in one regard so that you can work better with people in the future.